Unless you're an EV enthusiast who has been living underneath a small to medium-sized rock for the last few months, you've probably gotten wind of the new 2026 Nissan Leaf, and now it's really cool. But what's equally as notable is the fact that it's been over 15 years since Nissan first sold the Leaf here in the United States. Today, we're going to take a tour of all the previous generations of the Nissan Leaf to see just how much Nissan's electric icon has evolved. Before we start today's video, my name is Andrew Lambrecht. I'm a project engineer here at Ever, and I'm also a contributor at Inside EVs and Business Insider covering electric vehicles. If you're new to the channel, I highly recommend pressing the like and subscribe button to stay up to date with our weekly EV reviews and comparisons. And spoiler alert, we recently added a Dodge Charger EV to our test fleet, so expect a series of videos on that car coming up very soon. But now, a brief history of the Nissan Leaf. The 2011 Nissan Leaf was the first mass-market EV of the modern era. At its launch, it started at $33,600, or, accounting for inflation, $47,500 today. It offered a range of 73 miles, paired with a calm, fluid design. The Leaf hit the market at a point when there was little public charging infrastructure around. The people who bought this car were pioneers, or at least pioneers with level 1 or 2 chargers at home. Still, this was a moment when going electric meant truly betting on the future. But as time went on, Nissan's electric offering evolved into a much more practical vehicle backed up by better charging infrastructure and more EV acceptance. The original Leaf received some updates throughout its run, like new battery chemistries and updated pack capacities. The brand seriously updated the hatchback for the 2018 model year with a major redesign. It received a cleaner look, 2 much larger batteries, and significantly more horsepower. In 2023, the Leaf got a minor refresh with simplified trims and a cleaner front fascia. And while the second-gen Leaf was a massive improvement over the original, it's now clearly starting to show its age. That changed with the 2026 Nissan Leaf, which brings an entirely new design, an updated battery pack, better tech, and up to 300 miles of range. And this brings us to now. But before we get to Nissan's latest electric creation, let's go back to where it all started. Let's talk about the original Nissan Leaf. Sitting next to me is the original Nissan Leaf. This specific one is a 2017, but there's really no exterior differences between all of the Gen 1s. So this is our example model for the Generation 1. Now first, the boring stuff, the on-paper specs. It's 175 inches long. We get a drag coefficient of 0.28 CD, which really isn't that great. It was aerodynamic at the time, but there's far more aerodynamic EVs out on the road today. And we get 6.3 inches of ground clearance, which is actually pretty decent for a small hatchback like this. In terms of the design, this Nissan Leaf is kind of cute. We have these bulging headlamps up front that are like presenting themselves to the world. It's very unique. We have a front mounted charge port, and the rest of this design just kind of falls into place. Nothing crazy, no crazy angles on this car. It's all smooth lines that just kind of flow. This Leaf also comes with 16-inch alloy wheels, which are very exciting. Around back, this whole design just kind of like comes to this circular area. It's almost like a zipper, kind of like zipping up the rest of this Nissan Leaf, and this area is kind of in the center. And we have these massive taillights along the side, which give the Leaf a unique look. Next up is the Gen 2 Nissan Leaf, which came out for the 2018 model year. Before we go any further, you might notice the blue Nissan Leaf sitting over there, which looks very similar to this one. And that is still a Gen 2 Nissan Leaf, but there was a slight exterior refresh for the 2023 model year, which changed some things around. But the dimensions of the vehicle, the ground clearance, and even the battery configurations are all the same for all the Gen 2 Nissan Leafs, but we've just separated these to show the small differences between the 2018 through 2022 Nissan Leaf, and the 2023 through 2025 model year. In terms of this generation, this Nissan Leaf actually gets a little bit longer at 176.4 inches long, though it keeps the same drag coefficient of 0.28. Ground clearance is slightly reduced on this one, as it's now down to 5.9 inches as opposed to 6.3. The really notable thing here is just the overall design change of this Nissan Leaf, which looks way more modern and clean than the outgoing generation. But what's really interesting is the fact that these side window pieces are all the exact same as the old Nissan Leaf. So this quarter window, this front window, and this rear window are all the exact same as what you would get in the original Nissan Leaf. Just the rest of the body design of this vehicle was really modernized. Like the old Nissan Leaf, you get 16-inch alloy wheels as standard, though this particular SV Plus, which is a little higher trim level, gets 17-inch ones. The charge port still remains up front, but now we get this new V-shaped front bumper that resembles a lot of other Nissan products. Around back, we get a much cleaner rear end, we get these sportier looking tail lamps, and this nice black bar that goes across the back to give some contrast. My favorite thing about the rear of the Gen 2 Nissan Leaf is this updated diffuser on the bottom of the vehicle. It looks really aggressive and it helps with aerodynamics. Next is the Gen 2.1 or 2.5, I don't know. I don't even think it has a name. It's just the 2023 through 2025 model year. And as you can see, some things were cleaned up for this version. The most notable are these updated 17-inch alloy wheels, which have a really unique look to them. What's also interesting is that the trim levels were really simplified, so you either get the S or the SV Plus. This particular SV Plus gets the nice larger wheels. On this SV Plus, we get LED headlights, an optional illuminated Nissan emblem, and no more chrome trim. So now it's all black on the front of the vehicle, giving it a cleaner look. Not a lot changes around back, though the old Nissan emblem is replaced for the updated emblem, and these accents, like where it says Leaf and SV Plus, are now made out of this graphite color as opposed to the chrome that you get on the older ones. Finally, we have the all-new 2026 Nissan Leaf. And this one has the biggest design change of all the previous Nissan Leafs, and this even rides on a new platform. So this actually shares the exact same platform as the Nissan Ariya. So the old platform is ditched for this new upgraded one. From the exterior to the interior, the average person would probably have no idea this is a Nissan Leaf. As for its specs, we get a length of 173.4 inches, making this the smallest Nissan Leaf. Surprisingly, it doesn't look like that, but it actually is. This is the smallest Nissan Leaf in terms of length compared to the outgoing ones, and we get a drag coefficient of 0.26, making this more aerodynamic than the outgoing ones. But what's really surprising is the fact that this Nissan Leaf has the least amount of ground clearance out of the other ones. This one has 5.3 inches of ground clearance, which is actually 0.1 inches less than the Tesla Model 3. So this is less ground clearance than a sedan, despite it kind of looking like a crossover. Some things that help make this car look a little more rugged is this plastic cladding on the lower side of the vehicle and these larger wheels. So this one is a Platinum Plus, which is the highest trim level, and it's running on 19-inch alloy wheels. The front of the new Nissan Leaf looks way cleaner and almost resembles an Ariya. Around the side, we get optional two-tone paint, giving a nice contrasted look. One of my favorite things on the new Leaf are the automatic retracting door handles for the front doors. So whenever you approach the vehicle, they will pop out like they are now, and then you can just grab and open them up. But what's interesting is that these are not electronic door releases. These are mechanical door handles. So you just pull and it's a mechanical release. This is good in case your 12-volt battery ever dies, because then you could just pry open this door handle. There's a small key slot where you can insert your key, and then you can manually open up the door. Another interesting thing are the hidden door handles back here. So to open them up, you just pull, and then you can open up the rear doors. It's kind of cool having them hidden because it makes the car look a little sleeker. Around back, we can see these lovely black roof rails, that nice little shark fin up there, and this tapered look and small ducktail spoiler. There's no more Nissan emblem on this car, we just get the Nissan script typed across the rear. My favorite thing around back are the really unique taillights. So we get 2 bars going horizontal and then 3 bars going vertical. And this actually stands for Nissan in Japanese. So the number 2 in Japanese is pronounced ni, and then 3 is pronounced san. Therefore, these taillights read Nissan in Japanese. But that makes me wonder, are the taillights on the left side of the car just reversed and then reading san ni? I don't know. But what I do know is that this overall design is very pleasant. I got some compliments in this car, and especially with these more unique paint colors, this thing really stands out. In terms of tech specs, the Gen 1 Nissan Leaf has a few different configurations. The first we'll talk about is the 2011 through 2012. This was the initial model year of the Nissan Leaf, and this one weighs in at 3,366 pounds. It uses a non-liquid cooled 24 kilowatt hour battery, delivering an EPA range of 73 miles. It's propelled by a 107 horsepower front-mounted electric motor, delivering a 0 to 60 time in roughly 10 seconds. This vehicle uses a 3.3 kilowatt AC charger, and there's an optional 50 kilowatt CHAdeMO fast charger. Next up is the 2013 through 2015 model year of the Gen 1 Nissan Leaf. These get the famous Lizard batteries, and this is still a 24 kilowatt hour battery pack, but these Lizard cells, that's what they call them, are more resistant to heat and therefore degrade less. The original 2011 through 2012 Leaf had pretty significant degradation issues, but that gets alleviated with the 2013 through 2015 model year. These weigh a little less at 3,256 pounds and are able to travel a little bit further at 84 miles. Horsepower remains the same, though now you can opt for a 6.6 kilowatt onboard charger. The higher trim levels come with this as standard, but if you get a lower trim level, then you can pay a little extra to get a faster onboard AC charger. Finally, we've got the 2016 through 2017 Nissan Leaf, and this one is the most desirable out of the Gen 1. This one comes with a 30 kilowatt hour battery pack. Now, the S model, which is the base trim of the 2016, still got the 24 kilowatt hour battery pack, but the higher trim levels got the 30. And then for the 2017 model year, like this one right here, all versions got the larger 30 kilowatt hour battery, and this delivers an EPA range of 107 miles. This one weighs in at 3,323 pounds, which is a little heavier than the 2013 through 2015, but it's lighter than the 2011 through 2012 despite having a larger battery pack. Power and onboard charger options remain the same. In addition to the entire design overhaul, the 2018 Nissan Leaf brings the largest powertrain change yet. There are now 2 battery capacity options. You got 40 kilowatt hours or 62 kilowatt hours, so massive capacity changes over the Gen 1. But right now, we're just gonna focus on the base 40 kilowatt hour version. Right now, we're going to focus on the smaller battery version of the 2018 Leaf, and this one didn't really see any performance changes from 2018 through 2025. Obviously, there are these slight exterior changes that we get on the 2023, but for all intents and purposes, the 40 kilowatt hour version remained the same powertrain-wise from 2018 through 2025. This one weighs in at 3,538 pounds and delivers an EPA range of roughly 150 miles. We also get a 149 horsepower front-mounted electric motor, delivering a 0 to 60 time in the 7-second range. We also get a 147 horsepower electric motor mounted up front, delivering a 0 to 60 time in the 7-second range. From the get-go, even the base small battery version of the new Leaf is a huge improvement over the outgoing one. DC fast charging still peaks at 50 kilowatts on this model, though the AC charger is now 6.6 kilowatts as standard. It should go without mention, but this Leaf is on the same platform as the original one, and therefore these batteries are not liquid cooled on any 2018 through 2025 model year. Next up is the 2019 Nissan Leaf Plus. You could get this in S Plus, SV Plus, SL Plus, pretty much all the trims, just with the larger battery capacity. This one gets the 62 kilowatt hour battery and delivers an EPA range of up to 226 miles. In terms of range, the original Leaf could compete with some compliance cars of its era, but now the Nissan Leaf Plus could actually be a worthwhile challenger to the Model 3 and Chevy Bolt, at least in terms of its range. Power is also upgraded in more ways than one. We get 214 horsepower mounted up front, delivering a 0 to 60 time of around 7 seconds, but charging power is also increased. So AC remains the same, but DC is now up to 100 kilowatts. While the charging speed is a huge improvement, it's important to note that the battery is much larger than the outgoing Nissan Leafs, so naturally you would need a higher charging rate to have similar charging times. The 2023 model year brings in a significant change affecting the trims. Now we only get the S with the 40 kilowatt hour battery and the SV Plus with the larger one. And due to some EPA cycle differences, we get an altered EPA range, and the weight also increases too. This one weighs in at 3,919 pounds. Due to testing cycle differences, this car now gets an EPA range of 212 miles. Electric motor power and charging peak rates all remain the same as the outgoing one. The 2026 brings the most significant changes when it comes to the powertrain, and that's because this is on a different platform from the outgoing Nissan Leafs. This one actually uses the same platform as the Aria, which, if you remember, was recently discontinued in the US for the 2026 model year. The most notable change is the battery pack capacity. We now get 75 kilowatt hours, and if you get the base S model, you'll have an EPA range of 303 miles. The Leaf also ditches the CHAdeMO port for now NACS, so we get a NACS port located off to the passenger fender, and a J1772 for slow charging located over there. The slow charger is now 7.2 kilowatts, so a slight upgrade over the outgoing 6.6, and the NACS port can do 150 kilowatts on DC. Power remains the same as the old Plus models at 214, and this whole vehicle package weighs in at 4,187 pounds. Those specs all regard the S Plus model, which starts at roughly $31,000 with destination fees. Nissan kept the same starting MSRP of the 2025, though now we get a much larger battery pack, far more range, and much quicker charging thanks to the 150 kilowatt port. As you could probably tell, this is not a base S model of the Nissan Leaf, so I'd like to throw in some context as to this one's price and what you get. Overall, the powertrain is exactly the same, but now we get larger wheels and therefore a little less range. This one is looking at 259 miles. Thanks to added amenities like a glass roof and some other stuff that adds in weight, this one is looking at 4,369 pounds. All in all, this Platinum Plus version is the most expensive, and this one is priced at around $40,500. But the major thing to note about the 2026 and newer Nissan Leaf is that all of these come with a liquid-cooled battery pack finally. So now it's no longer air-cooled like on the older ones, and therefore we can expect less degradation. And honestly, the Gen 2 had pretty decent degradation given that it wasn't a liquid-cooled battery pack. So I would imagine this degradation is going to be really minimized in these new liquid-cooled battery Leafs. Now, let's see what you get on each of these models. In terms of cargo volume, the Gen 1 Nissan Leaf actually has the least and most cargo space out of all the Nissan Leafs. I'll explain. So once you open this hatchback, you will see in this 2017, we have a very large cargo area in the back. In fact, this Nissan Leaf has 24 cubic feet of cargo volume. 24 cubic feet is what you get if you have any Nissan Leaf 2013 model year or newer. But what's funny is if you have a 2011 or 2012, you get 14.5 cubic feet, which is significantly less than what you get in the newer ones. The reasoning is, on the really early Nissan Leafs, the onboard charger was actually located in the trunk, and that's very strange because the charge port is located on the front of the vehicle. And that's very interesting because the charge port is located up front, so that means there are HV cables in the original Nissan Leaf going all the way to the back to go to the onboard charger. So that's where your AC power from your level 2 or level 1 charger gets converted to DC, where it's stored in the battery pack. But all that apparatus was stored in the back on the early Nissan Leafs, and therefore it ate into the cargo volume. So if you're looking for the most spacious Nissan Leaf, you got to get a 2013 through 2017. Unlike the Gen 1 Nissan Leaf, the Gen 2 Nissan Leaf gets the same cargo volume regardless of model year or battery configuration. So underneath the trunk, we get 23.6 cubic feet of cargo volume. It's just a shade less than the original Nissan Leaf, but there's still a lot of space back here, and honestly, I can't really tell much of a difference between this and the 2017. Like all the previous Nissan Leafs, the 2026 has a tailgate, but this one is power operated. Now, only if you get the Platinum Plus trim, so the S and SV do not have this. But nevertheless, this is the only Nissan Leaf that has a power operated liftgate. And then underneath here, you get 20 cubic feet of cargo space, which is fine. This is less than what you get in the Gen 1 and the Gen 2, albeit this does have a flat floor area, so it might be a little easier to throw in your stuff. But the really cool thing is that if you have a Platinum Plus like this, then you get a 120 volt power outlet located right here. Now this power outlet can actually offload 1.5 kilowatts, so that means you can level 1 charge another EV from the power outlet in the back of this Nissan Leaf. Oh, and I forgot to mention, there is a small storage area located underneath the lower load floor. It's not really that big, but there is a little space under there. The first interior we will talk about is that of the original Nissan Leaf. And as you can see, it is not very interesting. Flaccid, dare I say. No AC vents, actually no AC vents at all, regardless of trim level. No USB ports back here, and these seats are cloth and pretty boring. Since this is the original Nissan Leaf platform, we have this transmission hump thing in the center area, which kind of impedes on your leg room. This actually contains some battery components located in here, but nevertheless, it does eat into your foot space. These back seats kind of remind me of an interior from a partially rendered car in GTA. Up front, these seats are pretty well bolstered, which is a bit odd, and they are heated as standard, which is a nice touch. We also get some lovely amenities up here, like 2 cup holders, a USB port, Bluetooth, and Sirius XM. We get a steering wheel made out of a mysterious polymer, a small storage cubby located underneath the center armrest, and my favorite thing about the Nissan Leaf's interior, and keep in mind this is the base model, we get a 4-speaker sound system as standard. That doesn't sound very exciting, but when you listen to this audio system, it's actually bizarrely good. This is probably the best 4-speaker sound system I've ever heard in any car. I've listened to plenty of songs ranging from artists like the Cranberries and Creed in this Nissan Leaf, typical songs that you would listen to in a car like this, and the sound system handled them just fine. Next up is the Gen 2 Nissan Leaf, and from first glance, this interior looks a little more exciting. So we get cloth seats as standard, just like you do on the Gen 1 Nissan Leaf, but now we get these striped lines going across the outboard seats. Some other interesting stuff back here includes 2 USB ports located in this center console area. Now, this is the 2025 model year, and Nissan was still using USB-A ports back here. You could definitely tell that Nissan was preparing for a major refresh of this vehicle. We also get 2 cup holders back here. Now, the cup holder situation is really interesting because in the older 2018 through 2022 Nissan Leafs only got these cup holders if you had an SL trim. The 2023 partial refresh and newer SV Plus trims then get these cup holders back here. Up front, the Gen 2 Nissan Leaf is a huge upgrade from the Gen 1. It feels a lot more substantial in here, mainly thanks to this center console area. Higher trim levels like this SV Plus come with a power adjustable driver's seat. Other notable features include a USB-C port and a USB-A port, and the USB-C port actually debuted in the 2020 model year of the Nissan Leaf, so that was actually pretty early. This particular SV Plus comes with a leather-wrapped heated steering wheel and a 6-speaker sound system. Once again, I'm very impressed with how good of an audio profile Nissan can make with just 6 speakers, and this is the stock sound system. Nissan did offer a Bose system in the SL versions of the Gen 2 Nissan Leaf, so I'd love to hear how those sound, but the 6-speaker alone is really good. Finally, we have the 2026 Nissan Leaf interior. Now, there's a few things to note that this is the higher trim level, so if you get a base model, you'll still get cloth seats. But on this higher trim level, we have these really cool vegan leather seats, which have a really nice feel to them. The outboard seats are heated and they are perforated as well. We also get a center armrest with 2 cup holders, 2 AC vents, so first Nissan Leaf in history to have rear AC vents. This is on SV Plus trims and higher. We also get 2 USB-C ports, and on this Platinum Plus, we get a power outlet out here that can once again offload 1500 watts. We get 2 rear seat back pockets, and as you can tell, we have a glass roof. Now, this isn't any glass roof. This is an electrochromatic glass roof. So there's a button up here. If you press that button, this roof can become partially translucent, and you can see the Leaf script inside the glass roof, which is a really interesting touch. The other cool thing is that this Nissan Leaf is based on the Nissan Ariya's platform. So this is a totally different platform from the older Nissan Leafs, and that means we get a totally flat floor area. So if you're sitting in the middle seat, you still get plenty of leg room because there is no center hump that you get in the older Nissan Leaf. From the look, feel, and amenities that you get back here, these back seats are a huge upgrade over the outgoing Nissan Leafs. Up front, both seats are made out of the same leatherette tailor fit material like we get in back, and they do feel really nice. I actually like how smoothly grained they are. The driver's seat is power adjustable. The passenger seat will be manual. Now, the interesting thing is if you get an S model, which is the base model, you do not get heated seats as standard. But if you get an SV Plus or higher, then you get heated seats. The same goes for a wireless phone charger. If you get an S base model, no wireless phone charger. SV Plus and higher, then yes, you get a wireless phone charger. But overall, this interior feel is almost like a decontented Nissan Ariya's interior. So we get this similar look with the 2 large screens, and I honestly think these screens are a lot better than what you get in the Ariya, and we will get to that in a second when we discuss software. But we do get some cool storage solutions like this small cubby located underneath the center console. We get a large glove box and a pretty decently sized area underneath this armrest. We get 2 USB-C ports located in the center console, and this top spec model comes equipped with a heated steering wheel. One of the big things is that the shift knob moved from this center console area up here on the dashboard, so there's a lot more space and this cabin just feels a lot more airy and open. In regards to audio, we get 4 speakers as standard in the base S, 6 speakers in the SV Plus, and this Platinum Plus comes with a 10-speaker Bose sound system, which is really good. And my favorite thing about this sound system is that we get speakers in the headrest. So whenever you're calling someone on the phone, your audio is directed to the speakers in the headrest, so it's not coming out of any other speakers. And it gives you a much clearer way to hear the person you are talking to, and it will obviously distract the passengers a lot less. The materials are also really nice. Now, this is a higher trim level, so we have to keep that in mind, but we get some cool fabric up on the dashboard, some more fabric up on the door panel, and lots of soft touch materials compared to the outgoing Leafs. The Gen 3 Nissan Leaf just feels leagues more premium and modern than the outgoing ones. Next up is software, and on the Nissan Leaf, there's nothing that exciting going on. We have FM AM radio, Sirius XM, and you can use Bluetooth or plug in your phone to play music. We do have a settings menu, which is right here, and it's very basic. So we got your Bluetooth to pair a device, and then you can play around with some of the audio settings, brightness, adjust the clock, etc. Really nothing much going on here. Through this center screen, we can also see our backup camera, which is a backup camera. Now moving over to the gauge cluster, we can see our range, our battery percentage, and our battery temperature off to the left. This little gauge off to the right here shows you the overall battery health. So this is based on a scale from 0 to 12. This particular Nissan Leaf shows 9 out of 12 battery bars remaining. So that equates to around 75% state of health. I think 75% state of health on a battery pack that's 9 years old with no liquid cooling is still pretty respectable by today's standards. We also have our power gauge located up there, so whenever you accelerate, the power bar will be filled in, and then when you regen, you can see some of those dots fill in off to the left. You can cycle through this screen to see some different menu items, so in particular, you can go here and you can see how long it will take to get to a 100% charge, charging at 6 kilowatts or 3 kilowatts. And you can also see the average energy economy of this car through its lifetime, which is 4.2 miles per kilowatt hour. Now, moving up, we have our speedometer, which is located right up there. We can see our time, temperature. There's really nothing that crazy on the tech front in the original Nissan Leaf, but I think it does pretty much everything you would want an EV to do. In terms of software, the Gen 2 Nissan Leaf is an improvement over the Gen 1, but we have to remember just how low the bar was. So we have Sirius XM, Bluetooth, and we do have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, though you will need to plug your phone in to use that feature. But nevertheless, you still have that. Now, where the system really starts to lag is just this overall interface. And first off, why do we even have stuff like Sirius XM fuel prices? Why do we need to see fuel prices in an electric car? It makes no sense. But anyways, we go back to, well, where were we? We need to go back to the menu to look at the map. Now you can press map down here or map up there. So click on map, and then we have our map. And keep in mind, this is a 2025 model year car. Yeah, not super avant-garde. Okay, let's go back. Let's say we want to go to Los Angeles, right? Type in Los Angeles. You would think the search button would be there. You press list. Now, some options pop up. Obviously, Los Angeles is not going to be here because it's going to send us to Los Angeles Street or whatever. So we need to scroll down all the way. Not really getting warmer. Okay, getting a little better. Okay. 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 There we go. Let's just go here. Calculating. Okay, destination out of range. Now we press show. Okay, if we turn off the climate control, we can get 1 more mile. That's not very helpful because our destination is further than 141 miles. So we press yes to see nearby charging stations. Okay, now it's showing us charging stations by our starting location, which isn't very helpful because we have 64%. We can make it down relatively far south before needing to charge up. As you can tell, the route planner in here is basically unusable. You just can't really rely on this. I'd say go to PlugShare, create your route in Google Maps, and then use Apple CarPlay, because this is just really not usable. Some higher trim level Leafs, like this one right here, will have an optional 360-degree camera, and I'm trying to activate this. And obviously it's not super advanced, though you do have your backup camera right there, and a somewhat usable 360 view off to the right. Other than that, we get a physical volume knob, and located right below here are very intuitive, easy to use climate controls. And located off to the left is our gauge cluster. Now this is weird because the original Nissan Leaf was all digital. Now we get partial analog, partial digital, which I don't mind. I think it actually looks kind of nice. And we can cycle through some settings. Now, here is our battery capacity meter, just like on the original Nissan Leaf, but now we get a cleaner looking gauge on a digital background. We can also see our range right here, battery percentage there, and we get our power gauge located right here. You can see a compass, you can see an efficiency gauge, you can go to information about your driver assistance features, and even go here to customize the screen and look through some other settings. Still, on this Nissan Leaf, and especially regarding the EV stuff, there's not a lot going on, so you can't set charging limits on this car. You also can't adjust the current coming into the battery pack, and all of the EV settings just really aren't that important. Like, you can turn on charging messages to send to data center. I don't even know what that is. And then this is always wonky, so if you like turn it on, it says on, but then if you turn it off, it doesn't say off, and it just gets grayed out. I don't really like that. Not a ton of EV settings going on here. This is a very simple product. It's intuitive, it's easy to use if you're not a very techie person, but if you are techie, you're probably not going to appreciate this because there's just not a ton going on. And finally, since this is a Nissan Leaf, we get the Nissan Leaf shifting mouse thing. Kind of like it. It's always kind of cool, quirky, unique. And this is an E-pedal button, so if you want one pedal driving, you can just press that, and then you get one pedal driving in your Nissan Leaf. The 2026 Leaf software setup is actually really, really good and a huge improvement over even the Aria. So first off, we have much more narrow bezels on these displays compared to the Aria, and it just looks a lot more modern. We also get Google Maps built into the car, which is awesome. Now this is only on SV Plus and higher, though we do have full EV route planning with Google Maps, and it just works so well. Let's say we want to go to Los Angeles, just type in Los Angeles, and as you can see, it has already calculated in our charging stops, as we can see there. One 38-minute stop and one 20-minute stop. And then if we see off here, we can just click there, and we can see exactly when and where we need to stop to charge at. And what's awesome is it even includes the superchargers, because this vehicle can charge on Tesla superchargers with its NACS plug. Compared to the old Leafs, this is significantly better, and it just works really well. Another thing too is, if your car company isn't amazing at software, just have Google do it. Google has a great EV route planner. It works great in the Polestar. It works great in the Blazer, Hummer EV. I can name a ton of other vehicles. So why not just copy and paste that formula, put it in your car? That's exactly what Nissan did. It works so well, and plus it's quite responsive, as you can see. This car also has wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. So what's nice about this Leaf, specifically on the higher trim level, you can just leave your phone in the wireless charger. It will get pretty hot, but you can have your phone in that wireless charging pad and then project CarPlay onto the screen. You don't need to use any cables in this one. The other massive improvement is all the electric vehicle stuff in this menu. So now we can finally set charging limits, which is amazing. You could never do this even in the Aria, nor in the older Leafs, and now I can easily set exactly what I want the charging limit to be. So I can put it up to 90%, and it's really easy to do so. The other amazing thing is that we finally get an amperage limit. You couldn't do this in the Aria, but now you can do it in the Leaf. And now you can set the amperage to maybe 16 amps if you don't want your car to charge so fast. It's really great if you live at an apartment complex where they charge you by the kilowatt hour and might have an idle fee. So then you could just have your car charge slower overnight, and then you won't get those charges on your credit card. This whole thing is just set up so well. And as you can see, there are two interesting options right here. Battery heater, so you can turn on the battery heater. This is actually an option on the vehicle. It's $300 to get the battery heater. Don't love that, but then you have your battery heater here. So if you want to charge your vehicle at a fast charger, you can manually precondition the battery there. And then you have battery cooling assist. I would just always leave this on. There's no reason that you should turn this option off, because it really doesn't consume that much energy and will protect your pack for a long time to come. We also get a charging scheduler and a climate scheduler in the Leaf as well. But just a very comprehensive, very impressive charging menu in this vehicle. A lot more comprehensive than what you get in GM products. Really, really good. Hats off to Nissan on this, because this is great. There's also some interesting features in here, like ambient lighting settings, which are pretty cool. You can see your GPS position. And since this has the Bose personal audio system, there's a demo mode here where you can have a really cool auditory experience. Located right below the screen are the climate control menus. It's not really haptic. There's like a little feedback you get from these buttons. It doesn't feel amazing, not quite as good as what you get in the Aria center console with those haptic buttons, but nevertheless, you do have your climate control menu up here, relatively easy to use. You can put on your heated seats. And if you press up here, then you can see the full climate control menu. But honestly, I think these buttons work just fine. We get a physical volume knob right here, making it very easy to adjust your volume. We get some added drive modes too. So if we press down here, we can go to several different drive modes: personal, sport, standard, and eco. And the E-step button is here. Unlike the previous Leaf, this doesn't do true one-pedal driving, though it really increases the regen. Now, migrating over to the gauge cluster located right behind the steering wheel, we have our screen. It looks very clean. I like the looks of this. It feels very modern, and the cool thing is you can actually use the steering wheel controls to control either screen. So if I press here, this little right button, now I can control the center screen, and then if I press here, Now I can control the gauge cluster. That's a pretty cool feature. I've never really seen that before. And we have lots of customizability here. We can see our maps, which is really cool. You can see our compass. And then we can scroll through these settings to see lots of stuff. When you're charging the car, you can actually see the real-time kilowatts coming into the battery pack. Lots of EV nerdy stuff you get in here that you just never got in any Nissan EVs before. We can see our energy economy and our power gauge along with our range gauge. And located just above here is our head-up display, and it might be kind of difficult to see with the sunlight out, but there is a pretty nicely designed head-up display located in there. You only get this on the high trim levels, but overall, I think this new Nissan Leaf cabin just works really well. And by the way, the drive selector is now down here as buttons, which is a little weird. So drive is there, neutral, reverse, and park. And I guess on the note of reversing, we have a really good camera setup here. And if you want to access the camera, you can press there as well. And just looking at this, we get a 360 mode, nice frontal camera as well, but this 360 mode, just trying to turn that on, works fine. Not quite as detailed as what you get in a BMW or anything, but I think this is a very nice camera setup. And this shows you just how much Nissan has been improving its camera game, because this looks a lot better than the outgoing one. In terms of range and charging on the original Leaf, we get a charge port mounted up front. CHAdeMO is off to the left if you have the quick charge package or a higher trim level that comes with the CHAdeMO port. And then the AC charging port, which all of them have, is located off to the right. 2011 through 2012s get a 3.3 kilowatt onboard charger. And if you get a 2013 through 2017, 3.3 kilowatts is standard, though higher trim levels, or if you pay for the quick charge pack option, will then get upgraded to 6.6 kilowatts. This particular 2017 Nissan Leaf S has that quick charge package, so we get the 6.6 kilowatt charger off to the right, which is really nice because this battery pack isn't that large, so it charges from 0 to full in just over 3 hours, which is great. And then off to the left, you get the 50 kilowatt CHAdeMO port. After range testing this Leaf, 70 to 80 miles seems realistic for the 30 kilowatt hour version, and this car has 25% battery degradation. We also charged this car from 10 to 80%, and it was able to do that range in just 18 minutes. So this car charges relatively quickly, which is great. The only issue is CHAdeMO. There's just not a ton of CHAdeMO ports around. Some of the older charging stations still have CHAdeMOs, but now obviously everyone's going towards NACS, so there are just not a ton of these stations around. You just got to do your planning before going on a road trip. And if you're curious about road tripping an original Nissan Leaf, we recently published a video on that located up there. So if you want to check out that video, I think you will have a lot of fun watching that. Next up is the 40 kilowatt hour version of the 2018 through 2015 Nissan Leaf, and we get this really large charging port cover revealing 2 ports. We got CHAdeMO as standard, and then a 6.6 kilowatt AC on the right side. This one charges at 50 kilowatts. I'd estimate this 50 kilowatt charger can charge this battery pack in around 35 minutes is my estimate. I actually never had a chance to fully test the 40 kilowatt hour version for a charging test, so I'd estimate in around 35 minutes. I think that would be a fair number. But the good thing is this EPA range of 149 miles seems to hold up really well in real world scenarios. So the range you should get, I'd say at least 140 in real world driving. And as we can reasonably assume, the older you go with these Nissan Leafs, the more likely there is to be significant battery degradation. Calendar age tends to do the most damage when it comes to battery degradation, but charging habits and all that stuff are all very important as well. The Leaf Plus with the larger battery pack can manage 212 to 226 miles on a full charge depending on what EPA cycle you're looking at. But Inside EVs did their 70 mile per hour range test, and they were able to get 190 miles at highway speeds, and that was in the top spec SL Plus model. We get the same 6.6 kilowatt onboard AC charger, though the peak DC charging speed has been increased to 100 kilowatts, but don't expect radically faster charging times than the 40 kilowatt hour version because this battery pack is just a lot larger. Instead of filling up a cup with a sink faucet, now we're filling up a bucket with a hose. And finally, we have the Gen 3 Nissan Leaf. And this one is interesting because we get two charging ports, one on the driver's side of the vehicle. Now this does slow charging. This is a 7.2 kilowatt onboard charger, and this is for level 1 or level 2 charging. On the right side, we have our fast charging port. This is NACS, but what's really interesting is that you can't level 1 or level 2 charge this vehicle through this port. This is only for DC fast charging, but nevertheless, it is a NACS port, and this one can do 150 kilowatts. I didn't have enough time to do a full charging test with this Nissan Leaf as the loan was pretty short, though Nissan says this car can go from 10 to 80% in 35 minutes, which is a pretty solid number for an entry-level vehicle like this. The longest range version is the S Plus with 303 miles of range, and then the shortest range version is this Platinum Plus. Right now, there will be a smaller battery pack version in the future, but as for now, the Platinum Plus is the lowest range with 259 miles. Based on my efficiency number of 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour with a mix of pretty fast highway driving and some country road and very light city driving, I think that 259 miles is going to be really realistic for most people. And like I mentioned earlier, this is the first Nissan Leaf to have a liquid-cooled battery and the first Nissan Leaf to have adjustable currents and adjustable max state of charges. So in terms of the software backing up this battery pack, Nissan has really improved this product over the outgoing ones. And these are the vehicles we're working with. But before we get to the driving portion, we should talk about pricing. Now, if you're looking for a Nissan Leaf on a really strict budget, then I'd recommend getting a Gen 1. Obviously, check the battery capacity that these vehicles have, but you can find pretty nice original Nissan Leafs for around $5,000. If you're looking to spend more money, you can get some pretty decent 2018 and newer 40 kilowatt hour versions. If you're looking at getting a nicer version of the Gen 2, you can find some pretty good examples of the 2023 and newers easily under $20,000, in many cases with very, very low miles on the odometer. If you'd prefer a new car and you like a car that just looks a lot better, I'd recommend going with the 2026 Nissan Leaf. This one starts at just over $31,000 and offers 303 miles of EPA range. This new Leaf is a massively improved product. But now it's time to get all these cars out on the road and see how they actually drive. First up is the Nissan Leaf. Acceleration. Definitely for cities, it's more than enough. The original Nissan Leaf, like this right here, makes 107 horsepower, and this particular 2017 with the larger battery pack weighs in at just over 3,300 pounds. Handling is fine, nothing too crazy in terms of the handling. I think it handles like any normal hatchback would, just maybe a little bit better considering we have a lower center of gravity. Now, accelerating onto the highway, it's good. It starts to really taper off once you're at like 50, 60 miles per hour. But when I recorded the 0 to 60 time, I got 9.98 seconds, and that was on a slightly damp road. So maybe if the conditions were better, we could get around 9.5. But I think the acceleration in here is fine. Definitely, it's not as quick as most modern EVs, but I still think it's good enough to get you up to speed. The Leaf feels surprisingly stable at highway speeds, and the road noise is not really that bad. I mean, it's probably higher than average, but given that this is a smaller economy car that's made for city driving, I'm pretty impressed. When you're driving the Leaf, there's three main drive modes, kind of. There's D, which is just drive. So if you let off the accelerator, it will coast. It coasts a little bit less. There's like just a tiny bit of regen as opposed to neutral, but drive mode will drive like a normal vehicle. And then B mode will give you a decent amount of regen when you let off, not enough to bring you down to a complete stop, and it's definitely not as strong as what you would get in, say, a Model 3 or a Chevy Bolt. And then there's Eco mode. Eco mode can be turned on in either D or B mode, and Eco mode just really relaxes the accelerator pedal. When I was doing some of the performance testing, I didn't really notice any difference between the acceleration in Eco or non-Eco mode. The one downside of these older Nissan Leafs are that there are no safety features. So no adaptive cruise control, no lane centering. It doesn't even have lane keep assist, blind spot monitor, anything like that. If you get a 2018 Nissan Leaf, so that was the big major refresh, then you can get Pro Pilot Assist that has lane centering and adaptive cruise control. But as for these older Nissan Leafs, you really don't get much. I really enjoy the driving experience of the Nissan Leaf. It's plain, it's simple, it's electric driving in its most fundamental form, and you can't really fault it for that. And all these years later, this car drives perfectly fine. Driving the Gen 2 Nissan Leaf. Immediately, my favorite thing about the Gen 2 Leaf is the fact that we have one pedal driving. So there's a little button right here called e-pedal. Then you have one pedal driving in the Nissan Leaf, and it brings you down to a complete stop. And I gotta say, it's really smooth. I think it's smoother than what you get in the Chevy Bolt, and it feels really nice. In terms of the handling, Nissans tend to be a little more on the sporty side, and the Leaf is no different. It's not amazing or anything, but it's pretty good for what this car is. Especially when you're in the Leaf Plus, this car is actually really quick. So it's 214 horsepower propelling the front wheels, and this entire car weighs in at around 3,900 pounds, which is definitely on the more hefty side compared to cars like the Chevy Bolt EUV, which is around 3,600 to 3,700 pounds, and a lot heavier than the regular Nissan Leaf S with the 40 kilowatt hour battery pack. That one is 3,500 pounds, and the original Leaf is around 3,300 pounds. So this is definitely a lot heavier, but this added power makes this feel really quick. Right now, cruising down the highway at about 65 miles per hour, if I floor it, this thing definitely has enough power for passing. Like the previous Gen Leaf, this updated one also has a really responsive accelerator pedal. When you're cruising down the highway, the Nissan Leaf feels very planted, and I think this Gen 2 just feels a lot more substantial thanks to the added weight. Now, the big area where the Gen 2 Nissan Leaf outshines the Gen 1 is in terms of the safety features. So even if you had a loaded up 2017, you really didn't get many safety features at all. You couldn't even get adaptive cruise control. But in the 2018 and newer Nissan Leafs now, the safety features vary depending on which model year you have and which trim. If you find yourself in a newer SV Plus like this right here, you get a lot of safety features. In addition to the blind spot monitor, you will get adaptive cruise control and lane centering. That's all part of the Pro Pilot Assist packet. In fact, I can take my hands off the wheel for around 10 to 15 seconds before it will tell me to put my hands back on. And I think it's been doing a really good job of modulating the accelerator, pedal, regen, and braking. Especially on long, straight stretches of highway like I'm on right now, I feel very confident with Pro Pilot Assist handling most of the driving. While I still like the original Nissan Leaf, this Gen 2 is a massive improvement behind the wheel. Driving the 2026 Nissan Leaf. First up is handling, and it's pretty good. It's, I'd say, on par with the older Leaf, maybe a little bit better. Acceleration is also quite decent, and you can effortlessly get up to highway speeds. Already behind the wheel, this car is a huge improvement over the older Nissan Leafs. It's quieter in here, and everything driving related feels much more refined. The steering feel is nice and light, and the response is very natural. If anything, the newer Nissan Leaf actually feels a tad bit more composed and relaxed than the outgoing one. The noise levels are generally quiet in the cabin, though there is some wind noise coming from the A-pillar. The new Nissan Leaf does not have one pedal driving, which is very strange because it worked very well in the Gen 2 Nissan Leaf, but now we have a mode just like what you get in the Aria called E-Step, which sounds like it would be one pedal driving, but it's not. It basically gives you a one pedal driving feel up until you're around like 4 to 5 miles per hour, and then the car will continue creeping. And there is sadly no way to disable creep mode in the new Nissan Leaf. This E-Step system also moves the brake pedal whenever you let off the accelerator, and some of that regen occurs, which is very disorienting. So whenever I let off the accelerator, I reach for the brake pedal, but then it's slowly moving away. Very strange. But what is really nice is that all new Nissan Leafs come with Pro Pilot Assist as standard. So this used to only be available on the SV Plus of the outgoing model year and above trims. And now you get Pro Pilot Assist on every trim level, including the base S, which starts at around $31,000. Pro Pilot Assist uses lane centering and adaptive cruise control to ease your cognitive load when you're driving on highways, and I've found it to work really well. It's not quite as good as the 2.0 system you would get in the Aria, which actually allows for hands-free driving, so that one works on pre-mapped roads. You can take your hands fully off the wheel, just look forward, and the system will stay engaged. That can also do automated lane changes. Not here in the Nissan Leaf, we just get the lane centering. In terms of the overall driving experience, I really wish this car had one pedal driving, but it does very well in pretty much every other category. It feels more premium, and it's just a more pleasant vehicle to drive. As Rachel Adams' character from Mean Girls would say, the new Nissan Leaf is fetch. And that was our Nissan Leaf comparison. Side note, I'd love to see someone walking by thinking, what is going on in this parking lot with 4 Nissan Leafs lined up with their headlights on and me standing in the center? It's like some sort of Nissan Leaf incantation is about to happen and a level 2 charger is gonna fall down. But that's besides the point. What is the point, however, is just how much Nissan's EVs have improved over time. With today's inflation, the original Gen 1 Nissan Leaf would have cost $47,500 today, and it offered just 73 miles of range. And now we have the 2026 Nissan Leaf, which starts at $31,000, and it offers double the horsepower, quadruple the range, and far better technology than the original Nissan Leaf. In The Dark Knight, Harvey Dent famously said, "You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain." The Nissan Leaf has done the exact opposite. It has lived long enough to see itself become the hero. What started as a quirky, nerdy city car with just enough range to get groceries has finally matured. For 2026, it's transformed into a sharp-looking, competent crossover that's more capable and feature-packed than ever. And after 15 years, the 2026 Nissan Leaf is now a very, very compelling product. If you enjoyed today's video, please spend an obscene amount of money on a questionably jacked racehorse only to name him Evercar's official The Horse. Alternatively, you can press the subscribe button. Thank you for watching.